Hey guys, thank you for being here today. This is our first ever Mindset Mojo. We're going to be doing these every single week, so welcome to this very first episode. This is, as I say, our inaugural kickoff for a year full of fresh. Hopefully, we're going to make sure we make it happen. Actionable strategies that you guys can apply to your life. We're going to bring them to you every week, popping hot every Monday morning, right about this time, 7 o'clock. We may do a 8 o'clock Central Standard Time show, but I hope that you come to think of this as your weekly fuel up to kind of set the tone for your success and keep you firing on all cylinders with all that high octane mindset fuel we're going to bring you from all our guests. And today, well, we're going to be diving into the art of the reframe, the art of reframing obstacles. It's really something I found in my work as a business coach and executive consultant, something that every high performer really has to master. And how to take what might seem like a setback and really see it as a stepping stone to a higher level of success. We're going to be sharing some personal stories from me, from our wonderful guest here, Alex and Douglas. I'm going to introduce you to them here momentarily, and I just think the world of these guys. We're going to dig into some of the science behind making mindset shifts in your life, and hopefully give you some practical tools before you ever finish that second cup of coffee. I've got mine right down here, so whether you're tuning in from your home office, whether you're joining us on the commute, or just sneaking in a few minutes before the morning rush, we're just thrilled to have you here. And this is just the start. 52 weeks coming your way. Big ideas, inspiring guests, and tools that you can use to make every Monday matter. So let's get started. Hey guys, welcome to Mindset Mojo. Douglas and my good friend Alex. It's great to see you guys. I put their handles from X on the screen so you can follow them over there. But you guys have something tasty to drink during our conversation, I hope. I'm drinking some apple cider electrolyte drink here that I make myself. It's apple cinnamon spice apple cider. So I'm going to be digging into this. You can see my little coffee nook back there, and hope you listeners have something tasty to drink. If you have a question for our guys today, you can put that in the chat. I'm going to pull it up on the screen. We would love to hear from you guys, some questions from all of us. But let's go to Alex. Alex, tell us a bit about yourself and how you got started on your journey, what you do on social media, and how you really keep your own, mindset healthy.
Well, first of all, thanks for having me here. It's an absolute pleasure, and I'm honoured that I'm here with Douglas and you on the first official Mindset Masterclass live. So that's pretty cool. I'm quite honoured. In terms of what I do, my life's work is all centered around the intersection between humanity and artificial intelligence and what that looks like in the future. Now, it's a bit of a larger wheelhouse, that transcends into things like neuroscience, psychology, sociology, and a variation of other subjects. But that's the core of my life's work. As you can imagine, that's very explorative. I've always considered that life's work because it's something that I'll do whether I make money or not, particularly. But it's great to make money from it too. So I won't beat around the bush there. But gosh, in terms of how I keep my mindset on track, so to speak. There's numerous ways, but there's one way I'll drop in straight away, and that is by always having a purpose bigger than myself at play. That's sort of the consistent thing that I've always had. It's so easy to neglect yourself. That's probably one of the easiest things to do in the world, if anything. But when you've got other people depending on you, a bigger purpose and a bigger impact at play, that weighs on your conscience more. It's not just getting up in the morning and saying, I don't feel like doing anything today, but it's all right because no one else suffers if I don't. Okay, it's not just about me here, and it forces me to be selfless, if such a thing exists, truly, to a certain degree, whereas it keeps me motivated all the time. Always. I have people there that either work for me or work with me, and I always prefer to say work with, that keep me accountable, and vice versa. So that's that's one of the core ways that I always sort of stay on track. It's reminding me or myself that there's always something bigger than just me at play, and that's both keeps me dedicated to my work and the purpose, but also prevents me from neglecting myself.
That's amazing. I love that, Alex, because I think that that's something that's so lacking. I actually went to sleep last night thinking about exactly what you're talking about, and that is a purpose bigger than ourselves. And I think that we spend so much time on a treasure hunt for meaning, and the treasure's not out there. There is no meaning to be found out there. It is deciding a purpose bigger than yourself, and then engaging in that purpose bigger than yourself. And what I see in my work are people that they they a lot of times they don't have a purpose bigger than themselves. It's just a self-serving thing.
Yeah,
But
absolutely. And I always say this, and I think it's a Western thing, especially. Definitely, there's a few factors that come into play, but the very Western, be a super entrepreneur. You see it all on Instagram. Live that life that you want to live, and have a life of luxury, and all for it. Why not? I'm a solid, encourager of freedom, but underneath the surface, there's often, having known some of these individuals, a deep emptiness that a lot of them have there. Because it's all, what can I have? What can I experience? The key word I. And it's like you see a lot of the most wealthy and successful individuals, they dedicate a lifetime, almost half a lifetime, to a career in the pursuit of their own aspirations. What do many of them turn to when they reach a certain level of wealth? Philanthropy. They say, okay, I want to give back to the world. I want something more, right? Because they they have to find a sense of purpose again beyond themselves, because they've got everything that they wanted in me, I. So at some point they've got to expand that. It's sort of prolonging the inevitable, I've always thought.
yeah, exactly. Let's hop over to Douglas here, man. It's just great to see you. Tell us about yourself and kind of how you got onto social media and started, sharing purpose and sharing what you share, and just some thoughts that you have. Welcome to Mindset Mojo.
You, Dr. Heath. So, uh, great to be here. Thank you so much. Basically, first of all, my name's at the bottom, so we don't even need to say who I am. But the thing is that I'm Douglas. I've been a software engineer for a long, long time. I picked it up when I was 12, and I'm like 43 now. So I've been writing code for a very long time. But all throughout the years, I have dealt with a lot of different things, and it's kind of pushed me down a path. So one of the main things that I've dealt with is that I didn't make it through school the way that most people made it through school. The last grade of school that I attended was the fifth grade, and after that, it's been a bit of an adventure. Um, even to getting to where I'm at now, I don't have a college education, but I've had a software development career, which is something that usually only people with a degree at the time when I got into it, that was really the only way to get in was if you had a degree. They didn't believe you could do it if you didn't have one. So I was able to do that, and just for being able to make that leap into something where people said you're not allowed, and I was able to get in there. I was able to get in there. That taught me a lot. There was a lot of things that happened that made that possible, which we could go into more later. But the mindset thing. Now, this is something that I always have to deal with a lot of introspection. I picked up meditation a couple of years ago. I sit and it's funny now, being a couple of years into this path that I've gone down. Um, I I I could watch my mind change its attention which is really weird, right? So who's paying attention and who's listening when you have your inner monologue going on? These are things that roll around in my brain. So then it's like I sit there with awareness of the inner monologue going on and where the thoughts are going and all of that stuff without actually being in it. And it's really hard to explain that or teach it. I just think it's been a couple of years going down that path that has got me to that point. I could give out pointers, but it's really the experience of getting there. Now, I know I skipped over what I'm doing right now, which it's funny, Alex. I am I'm kind of going down the same path you are, except it may be a little bit different. From my software engineering perspective, I'm looking at AI and productivity and how to help optimize how a person can be doing what they want to be doing instead of getting distracted. That comes from my own path of my mind can go everywhere all the time. I so I've been trying to write software to help be that person or to help be that AI that might say, "Hey, Douglas, your brain's you're wandering again. Come on back. Come on back." Non-judgmental, not like having a person standing over you going, "Hey, why did you do that again?" Just something that kind of says, "Hey, you wanted to work on this. Are you sure you want to be doing what you're doing?" So I am working on that piece of software right now. Like I've got a code name for it. I call it MinderBot because reminders just get lost. MinderBot keeps you going, down the path that you set forward because it's always there with you. That's it for me, Dr.
That's
B.
awesome, Minderbot. Well, I have a bit of, I guess it's a rhetorical question. I think you might agree, but I'm not a coder, so maybe you don't. How often do you write code that just doesn't work?
Oh, that's a really wonderful question. So the thing is that a lot. When you write the first try, it rarely ever works. In fact, if it works the first time, it's like, wow, that's really great. But then I have to really test it because it's like I may have thought about this wrong if it worked the
Uh,
first time. Um, you know, so yeah, it's one of those things that I kind of want to put that out there that anything that you do that's creative, you're probably going to need to do it a lot before you get really good at it. And even if you're really good at it, you're going to experiment and do things you've never done before, and you're going to have to iterate and keep trying. One example I have of this is that my wife picked up wire wrapping. So she's making jewelry. She makes jewelry like she gets a precious stone and she uses wire and she wraps it. Well, she has to do this stuff a lot to learn how to use her hands properly to be able to wrap around and make these intricate designs that she makes. It's really amazing some of the stuff that she's been able to do, but it's also been a masterclass in watching what it really takes to learn something. Learning is about doing the thing, not about reading about it. So you got to get in there and just really get in there and do it. And it's
and
physical with
learning
that
is
piece.
also about doing it wrong. I read a quote
That's
the other
right.
day is if you never fail, you're not moving forward or something like that. By the way, you can tell your wife I came up with this, but I'm serious. I guess I haven't had enough coffee. But you said my wife has taken up wire wrapping. I thought, is that a new type of music? There's a new type of rap. It's wire wrapping. Yeah. So,
No,
yeah.
it takes a whole toolbox and everything. I mean, she's got a whole tool set that I would never, like, for stuff that I do in electronics, I would never have bought tools like that to do it. But she makes jewelry. I mean, that's really what that is. It's jewelry making.
That's amazing. I
Um,
think I have seen that. Yeah, I guess she's probably big on Etsy.
Yeah, Etsy, Facebook Marketplace. It's pretty amazing. She's kind of picked up making this jewelry and even buying some jewelry and selling it too.
How do folks find her
So
on How do
that's
folks find her on Etsy? We'll give her a shout out.
she's on Facebook,
Mm.
not on Etsy. I
Oh,
don't
okay.
I don't think she has an Etsy shop. So she's on Facebook, and I don't remember what. You know what? I should have brought all her
Uh-oh.
socials in. I'm just kidding.
Ah, hubby's going to pay for
I'll
that
send it
one.
later. I'll send it later. We
You
can
can
put it
drop
in
in
the
the
post
chat or
notes.
whatever. Thank you guys.
Yeah.
As we move forward here, I thank you viewers. Thank you guys, you faithful followers. Join the conversation. Put your questions in the chat. We're going to spend the last part of the show answering some of those, and I'll put them on the screen. So don't hesitate to drop some in there. But I do have another question about coding, since I'm not a coder, and I think that's just really really amazing that I love what you said. You said, I took the leap. Um, and what terminology did you use into something, and it wasn't allowed or something like that? I'm
Yes,
imagining
exactly.
a big barrier, and here's Douglas with his wire wrapped necklace diving, that his wife made, of course, diving through the barrier. And I think that's what keeps people back, is they think that a hurdle or a barrier is a blockade and they can't get through it. And I think for some
Yeah.
people like you guys, I don't know about you, but the way I view a barrier is, well, we'll just see about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll just see about that. And I've used that so much in
Yeah.
my life. To me, a barrier is a challenge that really motivates me, because I don't want to prove it to other people. I could care. I'm not about proving things to other people. What a waste of time. But I do want to prove it to myself that I could leap through that barrier. What do you think, Douglas?
Well, for me, it was kind of like there was no failure option. That was kind of the mindset, was that was really, like, in my mind, my belief system was, for some reason, was that was the only path. I could see myself doing that without the degree, even though that back in the time when I first got into the field, it was really hard to convince someone without a degree that you could work uh in the environment. Nowadays it's a little bit different. And see, I'll tell you, the other thing too is that, talk about working on something bigger than yourself. I actually went into teaching for 3 years of my career. So not only I didn't go through school. I tried college, it didn't work. I got my GED at 19. So I do have a piece of paper that says I know something, but I tried to go to college. It didn't quite work out. But then all through the years, I'm like, well, what's the point of keeping on doing the same thing over and over and over again? Let me go try to see if I can bring more people into something that actually, gave me a life, and was able to, make it to where I could have a nice house and a family, and all of this stuff. And maybe I could do that for other people. And so I did. I went into teaching. I taught for 3 years at two different coding boot camps. I want to be careful about that. And even became the head of the program, the head of the web development program, where I had at least 5 cohorts that I was responsible for making sure that everything was going okay, and running simultaneously at different points in time. So I actually have done a lot in ways that people who are like, hey, you don't have a degree. No, I don't. But I spent a lot of time reading, is what I did. There's almost 200 books in my Audible library, and most of them say finished, because I was on the road a
Wow.
lot. I listened to a lot of different books. I don't want to be like that other guy that has the bookshelf behind him and go, look at all my books, look at all my books. We won't use names, but if
I,
you've
I
been
had
on,
that. I had that bookcase. Umberto Eco. Umberto Eco, famous author. One of my favorite movies, favorite books is The Name of the Rose. The movie was played by Sean Connery and Christian Slater many years ago. But Eco would say that yeah, you do need to read your books and everything. Um, I always have more books than I've read, but that is the key. Some people do use books as window dressings for knowledge, and there's a big difference in having knowledge on a bookshelf and knowledge in the vault of your skull.
right.
And here's the thing about having a piece of paper. I have 8 of those pieces of paper. No one ever asked me for them. I've never had, I do mental health. I've never had a client, coaching, whatever, or a patient, clinical work, say, hey, let me see your piece of paper. And I used to meet in an office where I had them hung on the wall. I now meet in a little, cedar clad office It's poolside, by the way. No one asked for it. No one asked for it. So here's another thing, folks that are listening, is especially in my field, mental health. And I hate to say this, but just because someone has a piece of paper does not mean that they know what they're talking about. And I run into that so often. I had somebody say this morning in good faith, they're not making it up. They were talking about having a formal diagnosis for something. And I made the point that a piece of paper for that person making a formal diagnosis may be very different than a piece of paper for somebody else making a formal diagnosis or writing code or exploring AI or whatever. Because again, it doesn't mean that you know what you're talking about. One of my favorite quotes, I think a fellow minister of mine said this. Oh, I know who it was. It was actually Adrian Rogers, who pastored a huge church over in Memphis. He said, "We all know what BS means. MS is more the same, and PhD is piled higher and deeper." And so for many people, that's just very true. So the mistake I see a lot of people in my field make is they get that piece of paper and they stop challenging themselves to learn. And then they develop a fixed mindset where there's nothing else that they need to know. And if you don't have a piece of paper, they can't learn from you. Some of the people that I've learned the greatest things about life have been from maybe a farmer leaning on a fence post or a plumber with a wrench fixing my kitchen sink. And we're just talking about life, and I walk away with some knowledge. But let me get on to what do you guys see what do you think people struggle with these days? I think I see so many listless, directionless people in this world today. What do you see people, Alex, struggling with, in as we say in Arkansas, your neck of the woods, your part of the world?
I'd say, firstly, just to quickly touch on what we were saying before we get to that. Douglas, I can actually relate to your journey almost identically. Same as you, no big pieces of paper or anything like that, but paid a bucket load of money to the people that do have it to learn from them privately. So, do with that what you will. But and that to you, Dr. Heath, we are in very similar fields, I would say, and there's a lot of cross section there. So I too see the same things. And as I always say, in every industry, you have repeaters and then you have pioneers. The repeaters are often the ones with the pieces of paper. They repeat what other people had with other pieces of paper. And then you have the pioneers, the challengers of those industries. Those are the people that discover more and push the field forwards, generally speaking. And I've always liked to think of myself more on the side of a pioneer. It's maybe one of or at least I certainly seek to be. And that's one of the only labels I'll probably ever attach to myself other than human being. But that kind of in relation to your question as well, that brings it full circle. What do I see people, if I remember it correctly, lacking in the most? Yeah, I would say a sense of identity. And I don't mean that in the sense of someone told me that I got a mental health issue, so that's who I am for the rest of my life, right? Because identity is a fluid thing. And I'm also not saying that, everybody should go out and identify as a lamppost, but do what you will. My what I'm saying is identity in the relation of core values. My younger sister, for example, right? As I've seen with many other individuals and families, autistic, suffers with other issues, sort of borderline personality disorders, which comes in waves, as we know. Things like that can be deep responses to trauma. But a core of the issue is, like many of the kids these days, they're given phones and overexposure to the whims of the world far too early, in my opinion. But what does social media give people more than anything? And this affects us of all ages. That is a perception of infinite identities that people then look at and they go, relate it to me. How does that make me feel? Do I understand that? Have I been through that? Yes? No? Great. Okay. Attached. Like a war medal straight away. And then they bit by bit, it carries up this weight. Got all these medals for war and a backpack full of junk that they've picked up from each of their missions. And then suddenly they don't know where to go, right? None of it's their own. So I think that identity, in terms of core values, in terms of having a baseline, is something that is seriously lacking these days, right? And I was having a conversation with my mother and her friend the other day, actually, as well, which was over a dinner actually, and we were saying how if everybody fought for their convictions, war would cease to exist. A lot of the conflicts, a lot of the divides that we see, and people need those convictions, right? Even in relation to the individual, one's mindset. Constantly, I see, which I suppose I'll kind of simplify my whole point, is people that lack identity because they lack convictions constantly. And that means that they're susceptible to be pulled all over the place. They get distracted, they lack purpose, or if they do have one, then it isn't their own, it's someone else's. And I'm not surprised why issues of mental health are so rife, why so many are struggling to find a purpose or direction in life, because it's all artificial now. It's not, kids being raised, and I suspect even adults who have been raised in simpler times are now susceptible to this because they're exposed to the same thing. Having their values and their principles and their way of life, their convictions challenged because of overstimulation, because of this complete pulling and separating of identity. So that is where I see people lacking the most. And in my own view, that is a cause of a lot of the other issues that we face today as people.
Yeah, I very well spoken, very well spoken. I've got so many questions about that. I'll just kind of start here with a comment. One of the things in my profession is diagnosis, and so diagnosis is a label. Now that's not bad. I'm not against that. I think it helps to be able to say I'm from whatever country. In this case, I'm an American. I'm a Memphis, Tennessean, or whatever. In Douglas's case, I'm a Nashville, Tennessean. Born and bred in Nashville, Tennessee, live in Northeast Arkansas now. So yeah, we have all these labels, but the problem is the label is not you. The label is a way to understand an aspect of yourself. But to your point, Alex, I think that there's a reductionist approach to that gets to be not an aspect, not a flavor of maybe part of who I am, but this gets to be all that I am. And so let's just take my discussion this morning on ADHD with someone online, making sense out of that. Yeah, I think it's helpful to know if you struggle in a certain area, but remember that your brain takes that with you. And so when you get into a field, we'll say you're coding, and you're looking to bash through that barrier like Douglas talked about, your brain is going to say, yeah, but. And so I like to say that it's a certain type of fish in the brain that's really smelly. It stinks things up. It's not a halibut, it's the yubbut. I could code, yeah, but I have ADHD. I could do this, yeah, but I've got trauma in my background. I could do this, yeah, but I'm not as smart as Alex or Douglas. And so there's always that self-discounting of yeah, but. My question on AI is, number one, two questions really. Have you heard of people maybe using AI to make the problem worse, thinking that AI is going to somehow solve the human problem, the identity problem? And the other question is, how might it help us figure some of that out?
So, first question, yes, I have. And that is the reason why that is is all technology up until now, we've always created for the sake of consumerism or convenience, to make our lives easier, right? Get an iPhone, great, you can communicate with people easier. You haven't got to write out a full letter now, or pick up a phone the size of a bus and dial the numbers on there as well. You've just got to click 3 buttons and you're there, right? It's all for convenience and consumerism primarily. Now, AI in its current form is being used for that purpose, but it will not stay that way, and it's already starting to make that transition. However, that's predominantly where it is. It's again to consume further information. ChatGPT, ask it for information on a topic. Where does it get the information from? Current human databases, right? Same way as you just go on Google and search it for yourself. It's still a consumption point, which that's fine, right? Because it serves a purpose. But in this case, people are using it indeed to make the problem worse, because AI, which is kind of alludes to the second question, it won't solve all those issues for you. All it is in its current use is a vehicle for you to gain further understanding from, in a way that's a little bit more channeled than just going on Google and hoping the first website that comes up on a certain subject is somewhat credible or somewhat easy to find, right? Or makes sense in some way. It's just that middleman period. But in relation to the second question, which is, can we leverage AI for this? Absolutely. This is the core of my work. This is the purpose it goes towards. There's a lot of fear around AI, and that's because, again, most of us view it in our current paradigm of thinking, which is it's convenience, it's consumerism, it's going to add to my life. But as soon as the idea of that changing to okay, this is something that could directly threaten my current state of intelligence or function in the world, that's when people have a really hard challenge with it. And that's something that technologically we've not faced before, or certainly not in our last few hundred, if not ever, years in our lifetime as a civilization. So, it's people compare it to things like, the Industrial Revolution is just the same as that. No, it's not. The Industrial Revolution was just making tools, again, that were extensions of our potential or intelligence, right? But AI is something that, in many ways, can directly challenge, or at the very least equal to, not necessarily the intelligence, but the processing of information that we have as human beings, which ultimately transpires into actualized intelligence, wisdom. So to that I say, the future, in my view, is very bright. How we leverage AI, if we do it correctly, is by seeing it as an equal visionary partner for the future. It will remind us what it means to be as human beings, right? Which is not this process-driven A plus B being. That's certainly a part of it, but it's a fraction of our potential. Most of our potential lies in our ability to innovate, the creativity, this innate curiosity we all possess, which is something, due to things like having everything convenient and not needing to work as hard to get to certain outcomes these days, is that we've lost. People are less curious because they haven't a need to be, at least not as much. So, for that, I see that to leverage AI correctly is to actually use it as a way to propel human potential forward, and to have an AI or a purpose alongside AI in the future, right? And the fear comes from, again, people thinking in the current way. They're not thinking about, okay, where's my potential at? They constantly think about, okay, what's AI going to do, and where is it going to extend beyond me? It even comes down to the whole idea of believing in yourself. People only ever believe in other people based on what those people think they could achieve. It's very rare that you'll find someone that believes in you if they don't believe in themselves to do the same thing, right? That's the whole paradigm, and the same is applying here into AI. It's just a different form of that consciousness.
Very true.
That's my take on the whole thing. It's going to be moving us as people from a very process subservient way of thinking to more innovation, creative, really
Well,
pushing.
I'd like to hear, Douglas, your take on that. And one question there is I have is in in the world of the internet, you can get almost anything done with you. You can get almost anything done for you, or you can learn about things and then do it yourself. So what I'm curious with your work in coding, creating things for people, Alex working with AI, how do you guys see that kind of panning out where people aren't just, hey, I just want everything done for me? Because that's one of my big misgivings with the evil technology monster that you guys are feeding. is is what do we do when you have somebody that grows up with this stuff? I remember growing up without a cell phone. I remember growing up without the internet. I was in the age, still in the age of if it's going to be done, you do it yourself. So in all the technology, how can we help people reframe? Speaking of reframing how we think about things, where there's still a value in if not doing things with technology, just finding a way to do it yourself. What do you think, Douglas?
Okay, so this is actually a very interesting topic because I have children, and I have children that may have actually, well, I know has had access to technology for a long time, and you know, when I was a kid, I got access to the internet pretty much without having anyone sitting over my shoulder around 12 or 13 years old. I did have some very interesting non-typical things in my life, and that was one of them. I had a computer in my room and I had access to the internet. Um, and I was still able to turn out pretty well. Now, here's the interesting thing. My children have access. My oldest son has always had access to the internet, maybe too much access to it. And now, at the age where I actually picked up my first programming book and started working on code, he's actually working on writing code. And it's a very different world. He's learning how to write code, but he's also learning how to leverage AI to help him write code. So it's really interesting to watch this. And I would say that I see the same progression even though the technology is different. But there's a difference here. I went through this and I plant the seeds. I'm very involved in things that he hears and from me. Because that's me. I'm talking to him, and so I've been able to plant seeds, and they're coming up, and even though he's had access to this other stuff that maybe I look at it and go, well, I don't even know how you could watch that. Well, my parents used to say that to me about stuff I watched as a kid. I don't know how you could watch that, and they'd say I don't like that. It makes parents look dumb. Like you can't do that on television back on Nickelodeon. It just did. The parents they always depicted the adults as dumb imbeciles, and the children were the ones who could figure it all out, and my parents didn't like that, and they're like, so uh, I was fine. I even had access to stuff I probably shouldn't have had access to on the internet back when during some more formative years. But I mean, the thing is that you can still get through that, and you can still uh, learn things that help people. I think it does come down to the exposure, or it comes down to the influence of your parents. So if you're a child, having parents that like the fact that my wife is doing the stuff that she's doing and she can sell that stuff is great for my daughter to see it, because she can see that mommy can make money and make things and be somewhat independent in that side of things. My sons can see that aspect of it too, but they can also see what I do, and they can see they can put all of this together and perhaps even do whatever they want. They don't have to work on computers. They could work on whatever they want. But the thing is that it shows that you have to keep trying. You have to keep doing things to make it work. Now, I want to spin back over into the AI conversation a little bit because I don't think I have a different perspective on this. I think that it's just a different aspect. I'm a different facet. It's not as much of like an opposing perspective, I would say, not opposing. But my personal experience with AI, I call it more of a calculator, especially for code, right? I know how to program, and I know how to create things that are really stable, and I know how it's supposed to work. But I can utilize AI to help me write a lot more code faster that I can look at that code and go, I see, right? That's actually a pretty good idea, and I know that it's going to work because I know it will work. The other thing though is that talking about how AI can actually make things worse is the idea of if you take everything the AI tells you without discernment in your own wisdom, then you are going to set yourself up. And I mean, even if you don't have a lot of experience behind you, you still could do a sniff test, a little bit of one to go, maybe I should learn, or maybe I should go research this from other places too. That's the thing that I always see people having trouble with is that if you just take the first words that you hear, so if you just watch one news channel, right, you're only taking the perspective of that one news channel as to how the entire world works. Well, the same thing with AI. Even with people, if
Gosh,
you
Douglas,
only
I,
ever
I
talk to
can't
your
imagine anybody doing that with a news channel. Have you actually encountered people that just listen to one news channel? I'm joking, of course. People do that all over, and you're right. That's a
well, that's
terrible
what
idea.
That's what I'm saying is that only have one perspective given to you is actually one of the ways that you can get stuck in repeat mode over and over and over again because you can never get out. You can never leave the cave, right? You never get up and leave the cave.
Yeah.
Because you just sit there. You see the yeah the I think that's the allegory of the cave that I'm
Yeah,
referring
yeah,
to.
yeah, yeah. You're right.
Yeah,
It's a silo mindset. When Alex was talking about he used a term there. You can be a pioneer. The term that I would like to use, the opposite of that, is you can be a pioneer or a regurgitator. And so I know
yeah,
people, and they're friends of mine. They're great people, but it doesn't matter what they learn. All they're doing is just they're not iterating, they're not improving upon it, they're not adding to the knowledge bank. They just go through life just regurgitating everything they've said. And I know people that are still regurgitating psychology from the 50s and 60s, and they don't even know they're doing it. And then it gets on social media, and then somebody else that doesn't know anything about psychology just regurgitates the same old crap.
yep,
And so that's my whole brand is holy crap, that this is stuff from half a century ago, and you guys are still, spitting it back and forth in each other's mouth. It's a crazy thing. So I think that for you parents out there, it's not about telling your kids what to think. It's teaching your kids how to think. When your kids leave your home, they're you have to give them to themselves. That's the whole thing about parenting, is it is giving them to themselves. And a lot of you that follow me, you've heard me talk about this, but it was such a transformative moment. Which, when I get to what I'm talking about, you're gonna maybe think it's kind of weird. But when Christian Bale is in the prison in the original Batman movie that he played in, the prison bully comes up to him and says, "I'm the devil." And what does Batman say? Bruce Wayne, he says, "You're not the devil, you're just practice." Well, parents, listen. Of course your kids may think that you're the devil. They'll find out that you're not. But you should be very good practice. I did not raise my own son telling him what to think. I taught him how to think. Now, I can't even tell you the last time he called me and said, "Hey, Dad, I need some advice," because he already has that framework, He already has that framework. And I think that that's the place of parents. To me, parents spend so much time thinking that you got to create a mini me of yourself. Well, that's a terrible thing to do, you know. But at any rate, so guys, yeah, go ahead, Douglas, if you want to, if you had some thoughts to finish up on that.
Well, also, I wanted to talk for a moment about something that I have utilized AI for. But again, I have discernment and I can look at it and go, yeah, I'm not, I think that's a little out of there, out there somewhere. Um, but the thing is that AI is great to run thoughts through, um, and have something that is non-judgmental. Now, there's also another piece of this, so I want to say there's a warning out here. If you go to ChatGPT and you use the free account, or I think even the Plus account, your chats can be used for training, and you may not want to put your most in-depth personal stuff ever into those chats. We have a team account, that I have multiple seats on, and those are not used for training. Those don't go into training at all. And I do run AI models locally on my machine if I really want to get in depth into some things. But I will tell you that I can have some very esoteric conversations with AI, and it has a lot of knowledge behind it, and it can even role play different people from all of time. If there's enough data out there, if there's enough corpus of information out there with how they would respond to things and stuff like that, I can have some very deep conversations about things, and sometimes with the people that wrote it, directly, not really, but I mean, AI can simulate. And I have learned a lot from that, but I also trust but verify, right? And so I just want to put it out there, is that it's something that you can talk to, and you don't have to. There is no energy coming off of it of judgment that you might get when you actually talk to other human beings about stuff, that you might want to get your facts straight and understand your thoughts before you go and talk to people about it, right? And so that's kind of one of the really cool uses I have found for these large language models that have a huge corpus of information that were used to train them, is that you have a non-judgmental friend always that you can chat with. But just be careful. If you're using one of those kind of accounts where they can train on your data, there may be some data about your deepest darkest secret being trained on the next version of the model.
And I'll
And you
just
know that, yeah,
uh,
go ahead, Alex.
yeah, just for the viewers as well. What Douglas is saying here and the examples he's giving is a brilliant representation of what I say when using AI as a partner to propel human potential. Like the example you gave earlier on Douglas, which is where you've got an AI for increasing things, maybe like productivity or being able to stay on task and things. It's like a source of order to our innate human chaos, right? And I think your examples and the way that you're using it is brilliant. And I suspect there'll be plenty of conversations and collaborations to be had between us in the future for sure. So I can appreciate your perspectives.
Yeah, I just had a quick question, guys. It's kind of a sidebar, but I've heard this before, where you want to be careful that what you put in is not used for training. My question is, as a non-coder, kind of a non-tech guy, why would I care about that? I mean, wouldn't that be lost in the vast sea of information out there anyway?
Well, there's a couple of things, right? So it depends on how open. Like, if the training data set is open, then if you contribute it to it, you might find your stuff in there. But here's something that's interesting. In the initial release, like when they made ChatGPT public, here's some interesting things. There were people that I was listening to that said that portions of their book were coming out verbatim in ChatGPT responses. So that was a piece of information used to train it. Now, what you would never want, and people work on this, it's almost like a different kind of hacking, is that people can try to get to the base data by actually doing weird things with the AI model. Now, this is very deep down. Like, most people should never even worry about this. But you asked me a question directly about, could you ever get to the data? There's some controversy also, that even one of the newer models that just came out right now may have actually got a lot of data out of OpenAI's data, out of OpenAI's ChatGPT by just sending in like excessive amount of requests to pull this information out. So it tried to figure out the world by asking a lot of questions. But the thing is that yes, your data could potentially come out, maybe not all at once, but it could come out in different aspects of the response that comes back. So I wouldn't say that everything that you ever say would come back in one go, but there could be pieces of it. And you know what? Maybe statistically we shouldn't care, but I care. That's the thing
Yeah.
so I always look to be sure that my conversations are not going to be used in training. That's one of the things I look for, because it's just from my own knowledge and wisdom, I feel it shouldn't be part of the training set.
I think we're living in, I would call it the post privacy era, PPE, post privacy era, where people
Yeah.
more and more, I think that our grandchildren are going to be so accustomed to this. I mean, there are people crazy, 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 that put up social media posts of themselves on the toilet. So, once you get over that hurdle, who cares about what you put in AI, but you guys and I, we're much more private than that. But maybe if you're writing the next big screenplay for the finale of the Avengers next adventure, you probably wouldn't want to put that in there. Somebody might find out what's going on. But guys, we're going to wrap this up here in about 8 minutes. You guys have been simply fabulous guests. You can get this video. If you know somebody that could use a mindset boost, just share out the link with them. We are on live streaming to LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, and X. And again, you can grab a peek at the feed that Douglas has going on his X account there, and Alex on his X account. Right there below their wonderful pictures there, and invite all you guys over to join the Mindset Masterclass. You can join that at school.com/mindset. That's school, SKOOL, school.com/mindset. Love to see you over there. Just some real quick parting questions here, guys. I could sit and visit with you guys and have another cup of coffee for the rest of the morning, but I know you have things to do. What would you say is your own current top mindset struggle? What are you trying to, get straight in your head and in your life these days? Let's go to Douglas, and then we'll go over to Alex.
Well, that's a really interesting question, because I think that even if you think you got it, especially if you think you're all good, you really need to go and dig down deep into yourself. And, because there's always something. We're human. And that means that there's always a little something you can work on. So I think that the main mindset battle that I have right now is I guess around, maybe keeping focus on things. It's why I'm writing the software that I'm writing, and not just writing it for all the other people out there that can benefit from it, but also I'm what is it they used to say, the hair club for men? I'm not only I'm not only the president, but I'm also a client.
That's right.
That's a
You got to use your own stuff, practice what you preach, as they say. Yeah, that's great.
right.
That's great.
That's right.
Well, Alex, what about you? What's your top mindset struggle right now? And then next we're going to go into what's your top mindset hack, guys. But yeah, Alex, take it away.
Mine would be, it's a recently developed one, and that would be picking up momentum again. And I think a lot of that came from me hiring to basically have a lot of different things that I was doing business-wise myself now done for me, essentially, right, over the back quarter of the year. And when you're doing that, it's great, but then all of a sudden I sort of sat there and found myself in a situation of, well, I've got an extra 5 hours in the day. What do I do with this? Because I hadn't had to think about that for the last 3 years. Up until that point, I was just doing it all myself, and that is picking up momentum again. my focus is which I'm starting to come through anyway, really, because it's I kind of had to sit there over Christmas and have a reevaluation of tasks and things towards business, life's work, where it's forced me to get into my creative space again, definitely, because I lived in this very process driven period for such a long time, because I was doing a lot of these arduous sort of admin and sort of processing tasks that every business sort of has, right? So that's been one of my struggles for sure, and the light is absolutely at the end of the tunnel. It's getting nearer, so it's sort of reminding me what it was like right at the beginning, really, when you sort of got all these ideas. Where do you want to start? What do you want to start? And you just kind of go there on the wall, and pick something, and then just the rest sort of falls into line, really. So yeah.
Yeah. Anything but a smooth process. I do psychology for a living, and even for me, it's anything but a smooth process. My own personal struggle is, just to be fair, since you guys we're sharing some things here, is I have reorganized my schedule. I'm going to bed much earlier. My target bedtime is 8 p.m. every night, which means that I get up every day at 4 a.m. and I get to work. I get started doing things, and I did that for various reasons. And I'm working some other things into my workflow. So my point there, hopefully, to kind of encourage some people, is your brain loves patterns. Anytime you change the pattern, there's going to be a bit of a raggedy struggle. I'm not catastrophizing that, so that's my hack is don't catastrophize the rough, raggedy nature of changing things around, because as Alex just said, things will smooth out. Things will smooth out, and so that's what I'm doing. I don't have everything plugged back in. Some of my supplement meal routine, I don't have everything plugged back in, but that's okay. You're really not doing yourself a favor trying to plug in too many things all at once. So I'm plugging in one thing, kind of like a plug in a wall, jiggling it around, making sure it's fully plugged in, and then I'll plug in another thing, and eventually you'll develop a bit of a flow state, a status quo. Yeah, just hey, there's Sherry, our wonderful friend Sherry. Good, I'm going to put that on the screen there. Good morning, Sherry. Always great to see you. We got a few minutes for questions, guys, after these guys share. So put those in the chat, and I'll pop them up on the screen. But that's my mindset hack. Let's go to Douglas. What's your top current mindset hack?
I was going to say two different things, and I can say them really quick and explain as much time as we have. So, um, affirmations. So, understanding that the affirmations aren't necessarily going to be something that I believe is true in the moment, but what I do believe is true, and this is how you can mind hack around affirmations, is to believe that you are planting seeds for that to be true, as if you're saying it as if it's true right now. Those are seeds that you are planting, and the belief that it can make it true is the thing that will actually make it work. So if you sit there and struggle and say that and say I am well. Like you're like, no, I'm not well. I have all these things going on. Well, if you're fighting with it, then yeah, the energy around that is going to push back on you quite a bit, and you probably are not going to get what you want. Now that leads me to my second mind hack, which I learned recently, um, which I title meh. That's like people go meh. You know, I think if you're Italian, you go, eh, it's the, you know, that's what that's my other mind hack, which is that the thing is that when you assign any excess emotional potential to anything, you have a chance of getting something you don't want. So you should be happy about things, absolutely, but if it has to happen, if it's so great that you're putting all this excess energy out there, then what I have found is the universe is going to reply back. It's almost like you're like slamming into the water. Well, the universe is going to try to smooth that back over. So
Uh huh.
if you be excited, but then
Yep.
meh. You know,
I
keep going.
love that. It's really weird. I wish I didn't have to say this. Oh, you guys can't even imagine how much I wish I didn't have to share this story, because I've been working on this mad response for 2 days, because all my schedule is in this little external brain here. I remember a lot of things. I don't remember everything. I've got a pretty intense schedule. And so I schedule all of my content for the spaces that I do, Midday Mindset, every day, 12 p.m. Elvis Standard Time. Uh, CST, yeah, Douglas's time. Elvis Presley time, EPT. I'll get it settled there. Well, I changed one thing. I moved a scheduled space. That's what it's called on X. It's an audio space. I moved one space to a different date. I get an option to click the button, change for all of all cases, or just this one. Well, no, just this one. And then a wonderful, just a magical thing happened. What did Bob Ross call it? A happy moment, or happy
Happy little
accident?
mistakes.
Happy,
Happy little mistakes.
Yeah, yeah, and every space I'd ever done in the past and the future disappeared. Presto changeo, just gone, just like that. I mean, every single one. I'm at nearly 300, but every single one that I've had, every single one I had planned out for the next 3 to 4 weeks, which 4 weeks for me is 20, because I do five. Well, no, 24. I do 6 spaces a week, so that's 24. Well, so luckily I've got a brain that can just iterate, produce, be a pioneer, come up with new things. And so, yeah, that mad response, what a great response. What a great response. And thank you for that reinforcement, Douglas. Let's go to our friend Alex. What's your current best mindset hack?
I'll give you two as well, because they're sort of conjoined together. First would be, honestly, it would be, maybe it's a bit of a niche one, but that is hemisync, or more commonly known as flow state, which you'll understand, Dr. Heath. That is the practice of synchronizing both parts, the non-creative and the creative left-right part of the brain. And I think it's started to become a little bit of a trending thing now. People are actually picking up on what that is now, which is cool, and I'm glad. But that is maybe philosophically the best way to put it. Measuring or treading the line between order and chaos. As human beings, we are that, we are both. And that transfers into our brain. There's flow state. How do I practice that? Well, I enjoy writing bodies of work. I've written a couple of books to myself, articles, mini stories, whatever that is, just allow my brain to engage in that way, because that helps with things like energy levels, momentum, focus, even has healing properties to the rest of the body. You've got mind and body linked as well, psychosomatics, everything. It is our natural state of being that we are as kids. And I always find that really great, because the more you do it, the longer you can go, the deeper you can go, and the more you can create from being in that state. So that is flow state. And I guess something practical for anybody to take away is, how do you engage in that? Have a bit of fun with it. Don't worry about getting it right. But one of the best ways you can do it is, if you've got an audio device, you haven't even got to be on camera, just press play in your head, give yourself a word or a subject, and just start talking. Don't try and think too hard. It doesn't even matter if it doesn't make sense. It could be complete waffle for the first part, but you will surprise yourself, because your brain has everything it already needs. You just got to let it open up. Second hack, which kind of ties in with the first one, is more of a view of what I'm doing as opposed to how I'm doing it. And that is that whether that be business, skill sets, life's work, I never view it as that is me. I've always viewed it as that is an extension of my latent potential. And the reason why this allows me so much freedom is because it allows me to adapt. when I need to. So much more easy. Because the hardest part about adapting isn't actually the action itself. It's removing yourself emotionally from the way things were before you had to adapt. Like family business that is, has done things a certain way for such a long time, and now the market's changed, so you have to change. But the previous generation doesn't want to, and the business either goes under or it flies again. Right? Classic example. That allows me to both appreciate the fruits that come from successes in those fields, whilst also not attaching myself in this very goal subservient way of life. So because I never want to be the boxer that's trained his whole life to be a boxer, finally wins and is the best, and then loses purpose and goes on a big drug binge, even though they got everything in life. Well, they lost purpose because they attached their identity to what they do. There's never a what would I do after that? And that always allows you the freedom to pivot. So those are my 2 hacks.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And one thing I'll point out is you can't create and edit at the same time. That they're really 2 different processes in your brain. So if you're doing that number, then catastrophizing, that is, you're not going to be able to create something. If you're doing this thing, more catastrophizing, then you're not going to be able to create and to iterate. So one of the skills that Alex talked about, I'll give it a label, it's called cognitive distancing, being separate from your work. I am not the code I write. I am not the company I create. I am separate from that. Because inevitably, when you kind of have that, when you don't have that boundary between yourself and your creation, then you come to see yourself as the creation. And when the creation doesn't work out, whether it's a line of code or a book or a course or a test score, for you young people watching, a test score, then you become to see yourself as the same failure as the thing that you created. Well, guys, we're about to wrap it up, but if you got a top, maybe something encouraging to tell people, some type of positive affirmation, lay it on us. And I want to, again, recommend that you guys tune in, hit your little reminder button, because we'll be back next Monday morning at the same bat time, same bat channel. Yes, I get that from 1960s Adam West Batman TV show. And so join us then. Also, head over to Mindset Masterclass. Join us there. School.com/mindset. School.com/mindset. That is school, SKOOL.com/mindset. What about a positive affirmation these guys can take into the weekend? We've got a great bunch of viewers here. Thank you guys so much for joining us. But either one of you guys hop in with something to kind of light that fire for the weekend, or for the weekend,
Well,
for the week ahead.
For the week.
Yeah,
Yeah,
for the
I was going
week.
to say that basically, it's going to sound cliche, or maybe it will, but I think that the best affirmation that you can use, that's the simplest, and if you, like I said, it's a seed, and you just believe that by planting the seed, it's going to grow. Meh is actually a good attitude to have around it. Is every day in every way, I'm getting better and better. That is a great affirmation to use. But don't look at it as it has to work. Like I said, that attitude of just being level about it, level headed, meh is a good way of looking at it. But using that affirmation with the belief that utilizing that affirmation will open up opportunities and make things better for you over time. We can't tell the universe how long it gets to respond to our requests, but we can make them. We're free to make them. And that's it. That's what I got.
That's great. That's great. I love that. Yeah, the universe has no fast forward button, folks. All you can do is play. You can't hit stop either. There's no stop button. There's no replay button. There's just the play button. So join the game. Have fun with it. But let's go to Alex.
The worse you feel now, the greater the potential you have.
Wow, that's how does that work? The worse you feel now, the greatest. How does that work out for folks?
When you hit rock bottom, you can only go up,
I love
right?
that. I love that. I find out. It's actually called. I call it and Saint John of the Cross. By the way, great works that you guys can read if you're going through your own dark nights of the soul. I talk about that a lot on my account on X. It's really in those darkest moments when the greatest self discoveries can happen. And that's because it's, again, the difference between editing and creating. So when you think that I'm all out of energy, I can't create anything out there, well, that's an opportunity to go deep and look into editing the sabotaging thoughts that are keeping you in that darkness. And so, guys, you have just been simply wonderful. We've got to do this again soon. You're always welcome to join any discussion I have on Mindset Mojo. It's so great to see you guys over in Mindset Masterclass. What's something you guys have noticed about Mindset Masterclass so far? What's something that stuck out to you?
Douglas, want to go first?
Okay, well, I'll go first. So, first of all, thank you for inviting me to join that community. I think it's a really great, encouraging community. There's always some sort of post from Dr. Heath about some sort of mindset topic that's really, really educational. It's like, even if you've read all the books and you have it all in your head, sometimes that's just sitting outside of the main experience. But when you read Dr. Heath's stuff, it brings things back in, and even if you don't have it yet, it'll teach you something. So I find that his articles are really great, and I do appreciate being a member of your community, Dr. Heath. Thank you
Hey,
so.
thanks. And we're going to have so much more things over there. This is live streaming there. You guys can always hop over and get a view of this anytime. And so, yeah, activated knowledge is always better than dormant knowledge. A lot of people walk around just a lot of dormant knowledge in their brains. So, trying to activate those knowledge neurons. What do you think, Alex? I appreciate you being there, man. I love what you're posting and everything. What do you think?
Yeah, first of all, again, thanks for having me here. It's been an absolute pleasure, and a pleasure to speak with you as well, Douglas. I'm sure this isn't the last conversation we'll ever have. Not in any stretch. In relation to the community, I think honestly that would be my favourite part about it. The fact that it is a community. I've always believed that majority of growth that you'll do as a person is with other people, working with them, working alongside them. And I think the community and what you're bringing there on school is a great way to condense that into something far more intentional than just being on this big flurry of an internet space, right? It's intentional, it's channeled, and I think is a great way for people, whether that be through the comments into some of your wonderful posts or in interactions like this that you may do privately or publicly, to come together and create something. So I couldn't recommend it more to anybody.
Thank you guys so much. I'm very, very grateful to you. And one of my favorite quotes is, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. So join the community. Good to see you guys. Come back next time. Look forward to seeing you then. Until then, get out there and make something happen in your life. Thank you guys. Have a great week.